You want to talk about Venmo versus Zelle today?
Yeah, why not? Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, I feel like we picked a competitive theme. Last week it's like, does Sam Altman lift? This week it's like Zelle versus Venmo. Let's get the background there. First, Venmo just announced recurring payments. Founded in 2009, 15 years later, inside of PayPal. They finally announced recurring payments. Pretty cool. So I've got the stats here too. Basically, there's this battle brewing for like, what does the world of instant payments look like? Both peer-to-peer, and this is the other thing we'll get into, but also peer-to-business. Like, that's how you actually start monetizing these things. So first, some stats on Venmo versus Zelle. So TPV for Venmo is about $300 billion a year, a little bit less than that. And TPV for Zelle, total payments volume, is about $1 trillion a year. So Zelle is very much winning, and you can see them pulling away, if you look at this chart, on the TPV standpoint. I think that overstates the thing a little bit, in that if you look at monthly active users, it's still in favor of Zelle, but it's more like 69 million versus 60 million, right? And so what that hints at is the transaction sizes are different. The transaction size for Zelle is on average about $275, whereas it's more like 70 for Venmo. And so here's where we are. But break down why you think like Venmo versus Zelle, like what's going on here and what some of the interesting stories are to pull on.
Yeah, so use case, right? Like, let's talk about use case and let's talk about user demographic, because if you cast your mind back to pre-Zelle days, I was in the camp of like, the banks have tried to do things in fintech forever. They're never going to pull it off. So
and pre-Zelle isn't that long ago. That's 2017 they launch it, which is interesting, right? Because 2009, Venmo launches. Really hard business for a long time. Gets plugged inside an incumbent, is able to scale. Zelle, baked in distribution with the banks because they're owned by EWS, early warning systems.
And they've done a really good job. The amount of times I've seen banks try and get together and do a thing that looks like fintech and fail spectacularly is phenomenal. But then who are they serving and what products are they serving them with? Venmo strikes me as being, if you are sort of young professional splitting rent, Venmo's a great way to do it. And if you have to do that every month,
splitting a dinner out, because average transactions $60, and so the median is probably below the average. It's something like a $20 $30 charge for dinner.
So this is the everyday. I'm splitting it with people I know and I'm approximate to. Zelle, I'd love to know the demographics of the average user there, because anecdotal evidence is this is parents sending money to college kids. So if I'm sending money to college kids, that's going to be anything from a couple $100 to a couple $1,000, depending on the kid and what they're doing. Why? Because I skew older, I'm more likely to use that thing from my bank that I trust that is secure. So the TPV can be misleading. And so the question is, well, what does Zelle give you the ability to do? What's your right to win if you're Zelle in the adjacent possible like products and revenue opportunities? All right, granted, you've got sticky users. Do you use Zelle
personally at all? I'm curious. I can share what I use it for.
I've never used it in my life.
Also, you're European, so like instant payments is not that exciting for you.
I was going to say,
it's been around for a long time.
2005, we did it first.
I use it to pay nannies, like any sort of like professional service person who, like if you have a handyman come, like they often want to be paid via that because it goes straight into their bank account. And I think that's a really important thing for two reasons. One is just distribution. It's already connected to the bank accounts, so that means that's why Zelle has grown so quickly, is all the banks already have customers, and they're like, hey, now you can use Zelle. But it's related to another thing, which is, what is Venmo's business model today? Instant transfers to your bank account. They charge a 1% fee. Zelle, like, there isn't really a business model for Zelle right now other than retention for their customer base. But Venmo's whole monetization strategy relies on connecting to the bank account, which probably also supports Zelle. And that's kind of a tricky space to be in.
Well, so this kind of comes to the, like, what's Paze about? Because the thing that I project or suspect is we're heading to the wallet wars. The wallet wars are coming.
I totally agree. This is the more interesting thing, is not just Zelle versus Venmo versus Cash App, but this.
Is it going to be Apple with the Apple Wallet and everything they're trying to build around the Apple Wallet? Is it going to be Venmo and PayPal, or is it going to be your bank? Or is it going to be somebody else entirely that comes in from left field, like a fintech company or Cash App or something else? So the wallet is a fundamentally different construct.
A Plaid, a Stripe, a pay by bank type thing,
Stripe Link could potentially play in there, because this thing, it holds all of my credentials. It holds my identity. Like, if you think about Apple Wallet, it's got potentially your driver's license in there, potentially in the future your passport. It's got your ticketing in there. It's got all kinds of payments methods, and it might soon have pay by bank in there as like a key payment method. So if that's where Apple's going, I think that's what the banks are really concerned about. Like, how is Apple going to start to own all of that? And what Visa's doing with the Flex credential is letting these wallets sort of play out a little bit more. And it feels like Paze is the bank's attempt to have a wallet story, but Venmo is this really interesting asset that has been sitting there, left languishing by PayPal for the longest time. And it's like, oh no, wait, PayPal woke up. And now maybe they're here to play. Right around the time that Apple's NFC has had to open up. So now third parties can work with the NFC chip, and you can do secure in-person transactions. You can do all kinds of new secure things. So Paze and Zelle give the banks something, but are they going to win the next generation of customers? Or is it just going to be another thing for all the customers they already had?
Yeah. I feel like our listeners, they're probably very aware of Apple and Google, and maybe even like the Visa Flex credential and Stripe Link and what Plaid's trying to do with A2A payments. I think what they might not know is what you just said. PayPal is waking up. They actually have a new executive team. I have some friends who are executives there who are working on this turnaround. They're like, we have done a poor job. We need to do a better job. I also was texting with one of them earlier today. I'm like, I'm sorry, am I like nagging you for telling you that it took you 15 years to launch recurring payments? And they're like, no, I love that because it gives me political capital internally to keep trying to push the ball forward. I was like, that makes a lot of sense now. I felt bad, and now I actually am like, okay, I can support you with the things that I'm saying. So PayPal's
What was interesting about this, though, was like the announcement came with the CEO tweeting about it. Like, that does not feel like a 20-some-odd-year-old company, that's like, I'm a bit past it. Because PayPal was just like that. I wanted to almost be the little stick figure with a stick just hitting the rock. Like, come on, do something. It was just, we acquired a thing, and now we copied-pasted some features. And it was just the same old product. And Venmo, when it hit, it just skyrocketed and then did nothing after acquisition. Braintree in its early days was skyrocketing, and then they did nothing with it, and they just kind of milked it. And they were we'll just milk it till it dies stock. And now PayPal might have woken up, and if they have, and Venmo can be something, they're in a lot of wallets. They're the preferred pay my friends. That's a brand that has a right to do some interesting things. But it's not cohesive. PayPal has a credit card over here and a buy now, pay later thing over there. You got to make this cohesive. You got to make sense of it, and maybe this is an early step.
And that's a great point on the PayPal CEO, Alex. And I had to Google his name to remind myself. OpenAI, Sam Altman. Facebook, Zuck, PayPal. It's Alex Chris is his name, right? But he's tweeting about it. There's an executive team that's working on building new stuff. So that's interesting thing. Number one is I think Venmo is waking up, even though Zelle has been pulling away, but it's not as far from an MAU standpoint as you might think. And recurring payments, hey, maybe that's rent. Maybe that bumps up your thing. But this is what we were talking about, the monetization thing, and this is I think the door to open and talk about Paze. So what is Paze? Because I think some people probably don't actually know what Paze is.
So Paze is a new brand by Early Warning Services. So the people who brought you
which
Zelle,
I think is a terrible idea, right? Like, shouldn't they have just called it Zelle or something? But it's called Paze.
Tell me about it.
But it's by EWS, which is a bank-owned thing that owns Zelle and now also Paze.
So at checkout, you would see Shopify Pay. Shop Pay is like a really nice single-click branded checkout. And you might see that now that, Apple Pay is right there, and it's that branded checkout, and it comes with all of those really nice deliverability, order tracking features, and it's really slick, and it remembers your credentials, and you don't have to enter a password. The bank's alternative
and 20
to this
years ago,
Pay.
the only thing you saw there was PayPal.
Yeah.
And they lost. They lost their way. Now there's everyone.
they were a pioneer in so many ways, but they just didn't improve the product. And ShopPay, I to this day, like, you have got to admire the artistry of that product. It is aggressively frictionless. It is beautiful. It takes so much effort to build something that feels so effortless as a user. And PayPal just felt kind of janky and old. What Paze is now trying to do is be that one-click checkout for everybody else. So whether you're a bank, no matter what your credit or debit card is, you could hit the Paze button and it should just work like you've hit the Shopify button. And the banks, have a wallet story. Because why? Well, Shopify Pay sits on top of Stripe Link. PayPal has Fastlane now, which is their new kind of attempt to do that sort of super ultra duper branded checkout. You got Apple Pay and Paze. So will Paze pay the bills for them? Will it become a right to win? And will it capture those credentials and create that repeat use that people want to use? Because one of the great things about a wallet is it allows you to potentially have multiple cards. But the banks make a lot of money when you use their card, not multiple cards. So there's this interesting.
So I think this is the most interesting thing about Paze. So their big right to win is very similar to Zelle. It's already connected to your bank account. Money comes out, goes in, whatever. I think the biggest sticking point is this: consumers do want to choose between bank account or this card or that card, and that doesn't really align with what the banks want for Paze.
So maybe they don't have a right to win, they have a right to distribution. They have a right to market share, but they don't have a right to win, because the differentiator in the wallet wars will be your ability to hyper-serve consumer need. Can I give you whatever payment rail you need for the lowest cost or the highest rewards in a way that just works and delivery's taken care of so that it feels like magic? And if I can't do that, then you're going to choose something else. And PayPal has woken up to this. They're doing Fastlane. They're now trying to bring Venmo to the thing. If they somehow just ditched the Fastlane name and turned it all into Venmo, that would be lovely. Like, Alex, Chris, if you're watching, what the hell is Fastlane? It sounds like a WWE pay-per-view. It's weird. Change the name and just make it all Venmo. Go deep into NFC. Go win. Go be consumer-centric as all, because you've got a business model. You can make a business model work. Heck, if you do it well enough, people would
Venmo has a brand, too.
People
like Venmo.
Yes. This is the thing. This is the thing I never really, truly appreciated about Venmo until I spent more and more time in the States around people who were just Venmo me. Like, that is the default for the
It's a better user
30,
experience, for sure.
Default middle class 30-something wants you to Venmo them. Like, that is still an incredibly interesting market position to have. And the things you could build around that, your adjacent possibles, unbelievable. So how do you monetize? I think there is a right to win in subscriptions. Look at what Nubank is doing around MVNOs. Look at what they're doing, what Revolut's doing around its package subscription product. They're making up to $40, $50 a month out of users because they've bundled this incredible subscription. Honestly, the Revolut subscription is worth it just to have a half-price subscription to the Financial Times. Like, it's insane what's bundled with that thing. And
I want to talk. I'm not sure I understand your subscription idea, but I want to hear more about it. But first, I think you said right to win on distribution. Paze has 125 million debit card and credit card holders already connected, even though they launched or announced they were going to launch last year. They also have 80,000 merchants already connected. So that's the right to distribution. We talked about the fundamental issue with will they actually want to let you choose between payment methods? That's hard. So anyways, that's interesting. But what do you mean by what do you think is a subscription? Because I'm also thinking like a lot of consumers like, oh, another subscription. Like what do you actually bundle in? It's worked for maybe the money lines or the date or some other PFM. So what's your insight on a subscription or something around?
Assume we get to a world where Venmo succeeds in becoming a wallet. You can store multiple credentials in there. Paze, your wallet, can have multiple cards in there, but you can also have multiple other payment methods in there. and it becomes this place to aggregate your identity, and it becomes a place for your loyalty cards, and then you get this auto magic, like, okay, you're going to maximize your air miles, or you're going to use the cheapest payment rail, or whatever. It's just assume that is true. Now, I think there's a whole bunch of ancillary services you can start to package around the wallet that make it worth your while, that become like a membership, like a health club membership or whatever, where you just like, okay, and now I'm just going to give you an international roaming plan, and I'm going to give you like a subscription to the Wall Street Journal, and I'm going to give you da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And all of that is just going to cost you $20 a month, and you'll get a metal card with it, and you'll get free international transfers. Like, that becomes something that a wallet can create as an anchor, but actually is a revenue model for a wallet, because it's good. The problem is, you made the point earlier that, like, in order to move money into a bank account, they're going to charge you 1% in Venmo because there are fees involved. And so the US system just has fees, and the consumer's getting stung with fees. So how do you hide all of that crap? Well, the way you hide it is with all of this other value over here that you can go do through partnerships. And this is why I think Nubank has gone that route in Brazil, where you have Pix and you have commoditization of the payment rails. There's no revenue in payments in a lot of markets. There is revenue in the US, but that creates consumer friction. But there is revenue in all of these adjacent things. So my point was, you end up in a world of wallets, and your business model might starts to change. Let's see if Venmo goes there. That could be a few years out, but I don't think Paze could go there. I think Paze will just do enough to get distribution.
And they don't need to, right? Because banks aren't necessarily relying on it for a revenue stream in the way that PayPal might have to. So that's an interesting thing for Paze. I think, the PayPal team, some of those new execs, they asked me, how should we think about monetizing Venmo? And I got to be honest, I didn't have any very good ideas. But I think you're basically team subscription. In hearing you articulate team subscription and bundling and creating value across products, I think that's interesting. But I'm actually probably the opposite, which would be team subscription is charge demand. I'm probably team aggregate demand, charge supply. And this is what Venmo has tried to do. I haven't looked at the latest numbers. So I said the only way they monetize is by instant payouts to your bank accounts. That's not entirely true, because you probably noticed if you're paying a business, you say, oh, is this a business? If so, tap this button and you charge 1% to 3%. I have never tapped that button. I've also never tapped the instant payout button. So I don't know that's working. But if you do become a true multi-wallet, and this talks about like what Built is trying to do, is you aggregate enough demand, and this, everyone's least favorite business model until they get asked to pay for things up front is like advertising, right? You can try and push promotions, and you can frame that in the form of rewards. That's what I've seen work more often, because it's invisible to the end users, and I feel like Americans hate paying for things and love free stuff, and then you push it out. So
maybe, but
have I won you? Have I won you to team monetize supply?
No, I mean, look, I'm a fan of aggregation theory. Ben Thompson is a genius. Stratechery is the greatest content work in the internet history. But aggregation theory and financial services tend not to play too well together. And so financial services just has all of these annoying quirks underneath it, where the scale economies never really work. And on subscriptions, how many people watching this have a Netflix subscription and a Disney Plus subscription and a Spotify subscription, and you might hate them, but you still got them. And maybe you've even got a YouTube subscription. And
have you logged into my bank account and been looking at my subscriptions, Simon?
Right, and so now you're going to get Office Space, you're going to get Wall Street Journal, you're going to get international roaming if that's applicable to you, you're going to get international wires for free if that's applicable. There is somebody who would crawl through glass to get that product, and it would seem like an incredible deal. It might not be you, it might not be right now, but there's value there. Whether it's for the wallet and whether it's for Venmo and whether it's for Venmo now, different question. Could Venmo's next move more likely be, okay, now you've done recurring payments, go do business payments. Go on pay by bank. I mean, that's the logical step, right? Like if Plaid is in a good place on pay by bank, if FIS is now doing interesting things with Walmart on pay by bank, that's all starting to happen. Where's the Venmo story here? Like that's probably actually where they want to be.
Yeah, maybe you have moved me a little bit towards team subscription because I was just thinking I have never paid a subscription service for any financial product around a bank account for a long time. I mean, I guess you count insurance or something. But in the last 12 months, I've paid for two. One is actually a PFM. I don't want to say which one because I think there are a bunch of good ones, but it's been great. Super happy to pay the $10 or whatever dollars a month it is. If they charged me more, I probably wouldn't notice, and I keep paying it. Don't charge me more, but you probably could. And two is I actually use Mercury Personal, which is a subscription product. I think it's great. I think it'll get better. But when my bank account used to try and charge me a $10 fee for checking, I was like, "What the hell are you doing? It's like a garbage product, right?"
That's the scar.
And so I think maybe I don't know. Maybe I am or am not representative, but I'm willing to pay for value.
And that's the key point here. Is that's the killer point, right? Like, I think people have scar tissue in financial services subscriptions because most of them have been terrible. Like, there's this whole other sort of like tangent on bank assurance, which is insurance wrapped into your banking product, which is usually terrible, but done right could be amazing. Like, what's old is new again. You just need to reinvent it and make it actually good and actually relevant. But still, I stand by the point I made a moment ago. This should not be the first thing Venmo does. This should be like their 5-year vision. The first thing Venmo does after fixing recurring payments is fix for larger transactions. Once you fix for larger transactions, give me let me pick payments rails, then help me with the economics, then help me aggregate some cards, then build the wallet first, then you can build the subscription.
Yeah, cool. No, I think that's super interesting. Yeah, that is an interesting thing to talk. All right, let's wrap it up. So what are kind of the things we covered, the big hit points? I guess one, Venmo versus Zelle.
Zell's got distribution, but does it have a right to win? Or are all of its customers slowly dying? In which case, like you've got a big market share, you're moving a lot of money, but for how long? Venmo, PayPal's been sleeping. It woke up. That's exciting. Now
Alex Chris is here. Will you know his name?
Yeah, Alex Chris. Two first names as first name, last name. God bless you.
Simon Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah, but like to be fair, it's Americans that made what was originally a last name a first name. Like it was always a last name. It's just weird to me that
we're innovators, man. We're innovators.
It's something. And then I think the final point was like, what are the economics that are going to win in the wallet wars? Because Paze, I don't know if it has economics that make sense in the long term. They've got distribution, but do they have economics? Do they need economics if it's really just about a retention play? And then for Venmo, we went on this tangent on subscriptions, but there's probably a whole bunch of stuff they could do around aggregating other cards that makes sense for them in a way that it possibly doesn't make sense for Paze.
Yeah, maybe subscriptions are an opportunity for them, but maybe also subscriptions are something consumers have more tolerance for than used to historically. I feel like PayPal should be paying us for this, but we don't take any money from anyone.
No,
I guess.
No. Advertising slots may be available in the future, but like we're gonna grow this sucker first.
That's right. Awesome. Super fun. I'll catch you next week, Simon.
Later, dude. Bye.